first of all, who are you, and how did you get started in the graffiti street art scene?
I go by the name Chunxx, and I got introduced to the scene through Secret Walls and going to a lot of live art events in Digbeth.
What's Secret Walls, and how do you spell Chunxx for anyone looking for you online?
So Chunxx is like, because I'm cool and edgy, it's CHUNXX, because two X's I always like how X's look together. It's just something that
3 X's makes you really edgy.
exactly. And then it was Secret Wars in 2013, I believe it was, around that time when Fokker Wolf and Obit and...
I think that was my first year of going there as well. But particularly, what is Secret Wars for people who don't know?
Secret Wars is pretty bog standard. It's 2 artists that have 90 minutes that can only use black ink and paint, and they have to do a picture that basically destroys the other person. It's like a rap battle, but with paintbrushes, basically. That's the way I would describe it. Yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot.
It's interesting that a lot of people had their start at that kind of time, and also at Secret Wars, and Walls even, not the Marvel cartoon.
Yeah, well, Secret Wars before it was Secret Wars. I think that's why they changed it.
So, with that comic book title drop, what are your artistic influences? As we can see a piece of your artwork behind your right shoulder now.
Well, I'd say predominantly my style is focused on rubber hose animation from like the early 1920s. So studios like Fleischer Studios and all the innovators of animation from back then, mixed in with a bit of Ren and Stimpy and is it Fred Quimby, Tom and Jerry? So that kind of really cartoony, crazy fluidity that I really like, and just trying to incorporate into my own work.
It's where Hanna-Barbera got their starting point at Tom and Jerry. Outside of the obvious animated influences and moving into more broader pop culture, music, etc., what influences do you think fuel your art style?
I mean, I think for me, my big introduction into that kind of world was Gorillaz back in like when they first started out, and getting into Jamie Hewlett and that kind of style. And I was like impressed that you could put animation to music and how music can like correlate to the kind of things that are going on the screen, and that really just like blew my mind. So I always wanted to try and incorporate a lot of movement and a lot of things that would work well with different media and stuff like that.
But with your own style as well.
Yeah,
you're not someone I would describe as a Jamie Hewlett clone,
no.
of which there are quite a few. From an art scene then, as what I would describe as a fairly young gun, how do you describe the Midlands scene and where it's at now?
I feel like, from what I've seen, the Midlands scene has kind of been ups and downs when it comes to like street art, because when I was starting to get into it, it was a lot of writers were writers, street artists were street artists, and pasters were pasters, and it was slowly over the years people have been like incorporating it into one another. And I feel like, especially around Digbeth and like around those areas in the industrial side of Birmingham, you see a lot more artwork propping up now, and it's starting to bloom into something where like the city's starting to take notice, and you're getting all these art festivals and stuff like that, and it's just a great thing. I think it's definitely come from nothing, and it's, well, not nothing, very underground and secretive, to trying to get the community, like what would you call it, the public involved, and just trying to see how people would react to it. That's what I find interesting about the Birmingham scene.
As it develops then, have the rules of engagement changed for artists? So what are your particular guidelines that you always follow for yourself?
I always try and go by the basis of, obviously, nothing offensive. I don't want to be putting something up that's like anyone walk past and be upset about it. And then I kind of go on the basis of, don't really deface anything that's very public facing, so like schools and churches, graveyards, like those kind of, like, I wouldn't say they were sacred areas, but it's kind of like paying your respect to those kind of areas.
Yeah, I think a lot of people seeing these videos might be thinking that graffiti hasn't moved on since the 80s, and there's a certain predominant view. What would you say to those people, I suppose, who still got that view of graffiti and street art as vandalism?
I'd be surprised a lot of people these days that kind of would have that view, because I feel like street art and graffiti has been incorporated so much recently into like media and like everyday things that people see on a day-to-day. So I feel like people's affiliation with like gang culture and like crime and very like nitty-gritty dirty places, people are starting to appreciate the artwork more so than where it's came from, I think, because I feel like a lot of artists these days are just trying to get art up because they want to express themselves, as opposed to putting up people's names to show that those are areas that belong to gangs and stuff like that. So I feel like that's kind of dumbed down a bit now, and people have kind of appreciated more of the art side of it as opposed to the affiliation with all like the crime and
a lot more artists like yourself have got more online presence. So for anyone wanting to know where to find you online, where's the best place to find Chunxx?
For me, it's Instagram and Facebook. It's just simple Chunxx illustrations, and you should be able
with
to
the 3
find...
X's.
No, just two.
Just two, sorry.
3 X's, I think you'll be getting into a different kind of trouble. But yeah, that's where I primarily put my stuff up. It's just places where I could just archive my stuff, and if people like to view it, then they can view it. I don't really care who sees it.
Do you have an online shop?
No, not yet. It's definitely something I'm working, because I've started to get a lot of demand now into people wanting prints and stickers, so eventually it will be something that I will be going into and trying to get more work out there. So yeah.
Chunxx, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.